The video you're about to watch, I made 2022 Thanksgiving. Had a little time on my hands. The reason I made it is because no matter going to the FBI, U.S. Department of Justice, 3 times actually to the Civil Rights Division, even of all people, New Hampshire State Governor Sununu. By the way, did you know towns tell the governor what to do? I even got it in writing from his people. Anne, nice lady. Didn't matter. EPA, didn't matter. Anyone I went to. Typical. Nobody would even file a report or take the paperwork that I had. This might be 2022. You know, still a few people that their word matters. I'm one. I've even given my oath many times that I can keep my word, and when a brother is in need, I will certainly lend a hand. I believe it was Brother Washington that said that there is one steady course, and it's truth. You tell the truth, even if it's your life. That is who I am. That is who my family has been. Little extra information I found on my own. And it dawned on me, as most things do. This takes time. Considering even my own mental state has now been called into question, I'm sure by Judge Gardner, to one of his dear political friends in the state of New Hampshire, the head of education, who also does handle determinations for people of, well, Social Security, disability, things like that. Not all people want to be disabled. 2019. Received a lawsuit from a third-party debtor. Not uncommon. Actually, really not uncommon, considering it was from the same company that I had previously once before. And the same lawyer, using different part of his name and P.O. Box instead of their building address. I'd say landline, but it's not a phone number. Not an uncommon problem, easy thing to deal with. Well, went to the courthouse on the day, and the Judge Michael Gardner, was in a panic by 10:00. Lawyer wasn't there. Now, by 10:15, he had been furious with the staff at the courthouse, asking the staff to call him. Why isn't he here? Get a hold of him any which way possible. We need him here now. Then, by 10:20, Judge Gardner actually told us that if he was to dismiss our case, and we see a chap running up the stairs, come back to the courtroom. Now, I would love, truly love, to believe that, small town New England, things can be different than a big city like Manhattan. And they should be. Maybe Manhattan is more like a small town than small town New England, but beside the point. I don't believe Judge Gardner would have done that for anybody in that courtroom, or myself. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't. Actually, I know he wouldn't. Well, oddly enough, by the end of July, beginning of August, Judge Gardner, after dismissing my case that day, along with everybody else's in July, well, he granted a motion for that lawyer. Seems to be using a different part of his name, different address, than he had used previous when I had been sued by him and his company. But he had motioned to reopen the case the day of court that he didn't show up. And it's funny that when he cut and pasted on everybody that he was suing, well, he said he was late on the paperwork that Judge Gardner motioned or granted the motion to reopen the case prior to anyone receiving the paperwork from the court, so he legally could ask for said motion. That just really dumbfounds me right there alone. Now, oddly enough, I started receiving a lady by the name of Jennifer, receiving her paperwork, so I didn't think anything of it. Called the courthouse, talked to somebody else. Every time I'd receive somebody else's paperwork, for a matter of about 6 months, 2019, from August to December of 2019, I'd call the courthouse. And I'd talk to different people every time, but I would go through a succession. They would give me a succession to talk to. Same deal every time. Now, I called, I want to say around October. I called the New Hampshire AG's office. I'd leave a message, apparently, called me back next day. He told me to forget about it. I couldn't understand that. Now, this actually falls under a complete data leak anyways, but guess that's not important, is it? It is. But I told the AG, I said, I call the courthouse. I keep receiving all this paperwork for other people. It's Jennifer. I received one for a L.BICKFORD, and it seems like there was somebody else, but am I supposed to keep this paperwork for reference? Really? I don't think so. But I told the AG that, I keep receiving this. This isn't right. He said, well, just give them a call. They'll take care of it. So, I've called them a lot of times. Something very wrong here going on. Really wrong. Not to mention, if you need to read this stuff too. No, just forget about it. Forget about it, he told me. I said, well, I'm not going to forget about it. Well, no, he made sure I was going to forget about it. Because the only thing he did was call the clerk at the courthouse to ream me out for calling. Yeah, she got moved, I'm sure by Judge Gardner, to a different courthouse. Last I knew, she was at a different courthouse in New Hampshire. Same day, I called the New Hampshire Judicial Administration. Very nice elderly lady answered the phone. The second I told her what I was calling about, she couldn't get me off that phone quick enough. It was like in the movies when you see somebody put a gun to somebody's head and tell them, get them off the phone. You could hear her shaking on the phone. It wasn't right. I've been trying to figure out that. So, I knew that wasn't right, considering that this lawyer was suing all these people with the judge, is granting all these motions. Well, before you're even sending out the paperwork. Now, I made motion after motion to the court saying, I'm receiving other people's paperwork. This isn't right. What's going on here? I made motions to the court officially multiple times. Well, they actually made me go back to court in front of Judge Gardner. And he actually looked at one of the motions that and this is where I'm confused, because I made motions to the court and Judge Gardner signed off that I was to go back to the court. And then that day at court, he acted like he had never seen it before. Along with that lawyer, this is the funny part. The lawyer, I said to Judge Gardner, now here's this bloke suing all these people, and if I'm suing a bunch of people, you're not going to get the date of the court screwed up because a clerk tells you wrong. You're going to get the paperwork. And a bailiff ain't going to tell you the information wrong because a bailiff ain't going to tell you at all. This guy's job is to be here Monday mornings to sue people at 10 a.m. And the lawyer, oh, it was beautiful watching him react. How do you know my job? How do you know? I said, well, where are you on Monday mornings? Oh, 1000. Well, here, once a month. Go figure, right? So I'm trying to understand. Judge should have reported that data leak according to New Hampshire law. The lawyer should have. Then I guess they would have gone to jail for violating, I don't even know how many laws. I could sit here and go on forever, I think. And I'm looked at like a fruitcake because people are being, well, quite frankly, screwed over by Judge Gardner, this lawyer. Why is it being allowed? And Judge Gardner, I've noticed, has been brought up for a judicial review, but it gets knocked down just in time every time. His history isn't really clean. A lot of people seem to have a lot of problems with him. I'd like to know who in the United States Department of Justice seems to be covering for him. Either way, maybe it's the governor. He seems to be pulling a funny game, I notice. His people pull funny games. I'm trying to understand. I call the governor's office. I get made fun of. No joke. I tried talking to the governor's office. A lady there by the name of Ann many times. Communicated, even talked to her on the phone. It's funny that, the governor pays for a building for his disability commission. It's weird, though, because he spends a lot of money on his disability commission, but doesn't do anything, I've found. I wasn't even told about it. I was actually told, Governor can't help me. And towns tell the governor what to do. It's not right. I know that for a fact it's not right. But I was told by his people in his office, in the State House, the big building, shaped like a donut, got a hole in the middle, beautiful gold dome because of President Franklin Pierce. See, I've had some big issues, and one of them was, well, the road in front of my home, just the storm gutter that, well, quite frankly, collapsed and just nobody cares and lets the water come right in my home when it rains heavy. But I was told, governor can't do anything about public road, not his business. Town, They like to just send you in a circle. But this governor used the House of Representatives and the Senate that don't get paid. We have the biggest House of Representatives in the entire republic. Now, senators do get an office at least, better parking facility. But they don't really get paid. I mean, last I knew, like $200 is the money. But he used the fact that they're paying out more money now. Those representatives and those senators, they're just, the inflation that they're feeling is so bad. And that's why Governor Sununu needed as high of a pay raise as legally possible.